Hi everyone, today I'm talking to Dr Stephen Aiken OBE. Stephen is a member of the Northern Irish Assembly and he's leader of the Ulster Unionist Party. Born in County Antrim, Stephen served for 32 years in the Royal Navy, rising to a number of senior roles, including commanding 2 nuclear-powered submarines. He was awarded his OBE for his role as Joint Plans Officer in the Middle East. After his Navy career, he worked in the world of public policy in Whitehall before becoming the founding CEO of the British Irish Chamber of Commerce. He moved into the world of politics after returning to County Antrim and was elected to the Northern Ireland Assembly in 2016 to represent South Antrim for the Ulster Unionist Party. He succeeded Robin Swan as leader of the Ulster Unionists in 2019, and he's vice chair of the All-Party Working Group on Science and Technology, and a member of the All-Party Group on Disabilities. He certainly knows a thing or two about studying, with degrees from Cambridge and King's College London, as well as, of course, the Open University. It's great to be able to put some questions to him on behalf of OU students. So, thank you very much for joining us today, Stephen. We really appreciate you giving up your time. And so we've just got a few questions, and I'm sure the students would love to hear from you. So firstly, a bit about you. I gather you've got a number of degrees, as well as multiple successful careers across the military, business, commerce and politics. Could you tell us a bit? And one of those is with the OU, I gather.
Well, it is because I'd been in the Royal Navy and I was a mid-career officer, and I'd always wanted to sort of expand my horizons a bit. And I never went to university, and I never really thought about sort of looking into getting into sort of further education. I didn't really know if I could do it or not. And I was looking at the OU, and I looked very closely at some of the things they were doing. I was particularly looking at international relations. So I did the certificate in social sciences, the foundation piece, and I absolutely loved it. And I loved it because I had direct access to a tutor. I had material that was actually coherent and made sense. And I was able to going through the whole the various exercises and doing the TMAs and the rest of it. It gave me a real sense of what I needed to do. And it sort of gave me the bug. And to say that I started off with a certificate in social science in the Open University and then ended up with a PhD from the University of Cambridge just shows how the process flowed all the way through. And I think it is vitally important that that opportunity is given to as many people as possible, because I would never have gone, if I'd gone to university when I was 18, there's no way where I would have knuckled down or anything. I probably would have left after a year. But actually doing it and having the opportunity to do it mid-career. But one of the other things I've seen as well is from the Open University, and this is why I'm passionate about the Open University, is it gives so much opportunity for people to expand their horizons. But also the Open University as an institution itself is absolutely extraordinary. And indeed, I'm having discussions with one of my daughters at the moment, and we were looking at sort of the stuff the OU was producing on space. And, the fact that the Open University is by far the best institution in the United Kingdom and is globally recognized for space research. And I think that is just one small facet of how great the Open University is. And that's what sort of enthuses me about the Open University and why we need to see more funding for it. And it needs to be given a more prominent position as well.
That's great to hear, and really appreciate your support on that. Obviously, couldn't agree more. I think lifelong learning is so important, and in terms of encouraging social mobility and everything, it's so crucial. So on to something slightly more political, perhaps. Obviously, with Stormont back in action after the years of negotiations over power sharing, it would be really useful for our members outside Northern Ireland to be able to understand the impact of the power sharing agreement and policy making in Northern Ireland, specifically in relation to higher education policy. How easy or difficult is it to reach consensus across the political spectrum?
Well, the first thing we need to do is actually deconstruct where we are at the moment. And one of our problems with higher education in Northern Ireland is that our greatest natural resource in Northern Ireland is our people. It's our intellectual capital. And we're not investing sufficiently in it, because we keep on trying to kid ourselves that in some way the Northern Ireland education system creates this wonderful product that means that we're well capable of sort of intellectually, through higher education and everything else, been able to sort of fight well above our weight, which quite frankly we can't do. Because for many years now, and at least the last decade, we've actively disinvested in higher education. And that's something, and speaking because you asked a political question, and I'm a politician, I'll answer the question that way. That is our party's perspective, is that we have, if we've got a very limited pot of money, we need to invest in something that's going to be really value added for the people of Northern Ireland. And part of that needs to be higher education. And it must be fundamental that everybody has a route into that avenue for success. And that's what we want to see. From a policy perspective in Northern Ireland, because we have a 5-party, inverted commas, mandatory government. And the issue with having a mandatory coalition is that through the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, we're in a situation where there is a lot of tension and dynamic tension. But the most important thing needs to be a recognition that we need to get ourselves in a way out of COVID. We need to get ourselves in a way we're going to deal with potential problems with end of the transition period from the EU. And one of the best ways to do that is to make Northern Ireland self-supportive. I'm also very passionate about the issues around climate and the climate emergency. And what we need to be able to do is create in Northern Ireland a dynamic in some areas that are completely world leading. We can do that in life sciences. We can do that in renewable technologies. We can do that in a lot of places, but we can't do any of that unless we've got, and it's a strange word to use, but the raw material, but that is our people. And our people need to be able to have that avenue to do it. And if that means making difficult decisions in government to transfer money towards higher education, that's what we need to do. And Northern Ireland's got a rather peculiar situation in that, you know, everybody always says there's 2 universities in Northern Ireland, and I keep on saying, no, there's not. There's 3. There's the Open University, there's the University of Ulster, and there's Queen's. And actually, if you look at the results from all of them, the Open University strikes well above the sort of the weight from the other ones. We need to be able to invest in those 3 universities, and we need to do it correctly.
That's really good to hear. So carrying on thinking about your students in Northern Ireland, I mean, I'm aware that in Northern Ireland, students pay significantly lower tuition fees than their English counterparts, and I believe they have means-tested fee grants available. But maintenance loans aren't available for part-time students in Northern Ireland, just as in England, whereas in Wales, obviously they've moved things forward and they do have maintenance loans available. Do you see any prospect of this changing?
One of the things we need to have a look at is the complete mix. I mean, one of the rather bizarre things we have in Northern Ireland is that we export about 38% of our kids every year to universities in Scotland, England, and Wales. And actually, my 2 eldest kids did that. And the reason they did that was, quite frankly, they wanted to go out of Northern Ireland, and many of the universities here in Northern Ireland weren't offering the opportunities that indeed Liverpool and Dundee were. So we're into this pressure where a lot of our kids are already going across to GB and we're paying the full fees for them. But in Northern Ireland, we've got these reduced fees. But what we need to be able to do is look at a funding mechanism that is fair and equitable. But goes back to my previous point, is that we need to be able to develop higher education to make higher education globally leading. And how we do that, and keeping the ability for a quality and be able to allow people to enter into lifelong learning. That means we need an entirely different process of looking about funding in Northern Ireland. And again, that has to be the complete mix. The other issue I think we need to be aware of is that, look, if we're all going to be working until we're 70, hopefully, in inverted commas, one of the things we will do is that we're going through basically 3 careers. And at each time you come to do your career, you need to be able to have the option to reskill. And that is where sort of higher education, further education, but lifelong learning really comes into it. You need to have that mechanism to do that. And the current funding model looks at probably only stage 1, looks at a wee bit possibly at stage 2, but definitely doesn't look at stage 3. And that's where the OU comes in, that we've got stage 1, 2, and 3, and we'll be able to fund it appropriately.
Thank you. And I think you've actually covered my my next question, which was about encouraging people to retrain post-COVID. So I'll move on to my 5th one. Obviously, it's very important for us as a students' association to make the voices and experience of OU students heard. How can OU students most effectively influence the Northern Irish Assembly and its committees and all party groups to ensure that their issues aren't forgotten?
I mean, there is a whole, Northern Ireland has reached a stage where we've gone from no democratic government in Northern Ireland to a fully fledged process of lobbying and everybody influencing and everything else. But what we do need to do is have the right voices in the right place. And one of the things that the Students' Association needs to do is look very closely, particularly what's happening in the economy committees and what's happening in the finance committees, but get involved in the all-party groups as well and get that message out about we want to be involved in the decision-making process. Listen to our voice. Now, the other great thing is that you've got quite some strong advocates. I mean, I'm a strong advocate for the Open University. Claire Hanna MP, she's a very strong advocate for the Open University. Stephen Farry is a very strong advocate for the Open University. You actually have quite a few politicians, and indeed, I'm the leader of the Ulster Unionist Party. My health minister, Robin Swan, he's a graduate of the Open University as well. And people are very proud of the fact they're part of the Open University. It's getting that message. Use your links to us and we will help push the process forward.
That's lovely to hear. Oh, well, thank you so much for that, Stephen. I've been inspired by your commitment to love for the Open University. It's really great to hear, and we will certainly take that on board about using those connections. Thanks a lot for your time.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.